Welcome to the Landscape Photography Vlogcast, hosted by myself, Tom Peters, aka the Photo Ninja, all the way up north, Paul Thompson Photography, and Struth mate, it's Matt Bishop. We cover all things photography and chat to some of the best photography minds in the business. Put your feet up, the kettle on, and let's jump straight into this week's Vlogcast.
Because you never know what's going to come up in the pre-podcast chatter, do you?
Yeah, well, this is it. It happened for us the other night where we just kind of let it record for the first time.
A little bit too much. I said the F word about 77 times.
It's dangerous recording a at night because you can have a glass of wine or a beer in your hand and then it gets a bit loose, doesn't it?
That's what we're doing.
Yeah. You've got a coffee, mate, and we're getting stuck into our last wine for the night.
Excellent. What time is it over there somewhere, wherever you are?
9 p.m. their time, 10 p.m. here in Italy. Yeah.
Oh, shit, guys. Thanks very much for staying up for me.
No, thank you. Thank you for getting up early.
Not at all. It's not that early as such, but I don't know, something too. I've just been struggling for energy at the moment, and I don't know whether that's just this whole COVID thing, but I just wake up super tired. No matter how much sleep I get, I'm just really tired. Maybe it's that sort of lack of motivation,
Definitely is.
Yeah, it just there's not that excitement, to get up and go, because every day with lockdown has just been the same. It's so monotonous. I'm used to traveling a lot. I run workshops and have been for 15, 16 years. And I rarely sleep in the same bed for more than about 4 weeks. And I just found, I'm going to bed again. And I'd say to my partner, Mary, I'm like, oh, we're bloody sleeping again. Here we go again. Like, I don't know. It's weird. Of course you sleep every day, right? Well, most of us do. You guys maybe not. Young bloke. But, you just, here we go. Same bed, same night, whatever. It just gets monotonous. But anyway, there you go. I'm just rambling. Anyone would think I'd been drinking at 7 o'clock in the morning.
But does that become an issue, Tom, if you're on a workshop and, you're in a tent in the middle of the desert somewhere and you had a few drinks that night and you wake up early in the morning and roll over and touch one of your participants on the bum? Oh shit! I thought you were my wife.
It is a bit loose. No. Let's get this straight. We rarely camp when we do our workshops. Rarely. Oh my god, my participants do not want to camp. They're paying top dollar to not camp, as am I. No. There's no inappropriateness on the workshops. I'm very happily 10 years with my beautiful partner Mary. But yeah, I have missed that travel. I have missed that. I'm not somebody who does the same thing over and over again very well. I know there's some people who love being in the same job, who love doing the same task, who thrive on that consistency.
After my own heart.
I get so bored. Oh my God. I swear if photography wasn't such a challenge, I reckon that I would have given up years ago because you never get that perfect shot, or if you do, you're always chasing the next one, and you're never nailing it every time you take a photo. There's always that. It's always pushing back on you, and it's always challenging you, and you're always learning stuff. And I find that really engaging because otherwise I just get bored so easily. So I'm desperate to travel again. We've run 3-4 workshops in the last 18 months, which is not nearly enough. We've got them banking up. Like, we've had workshops that have been delayed for 2 years in a row now. So it'll be, 3 or 4 years that some of these participants have been waiting to go on these workshops. So it'll be good to travel again. Although I just dragged out my calendar yesterday and worked out I'm away 16 weeks next year, which is a fair chunk of time.
Yeah, it is.
Away from the business and family and kids doing, important news at school, things like that. But anyway, that's what I signed up for.
When you say we have got workshops booked up, Tom, are you running this all on your own?
The royal we, myself and I. Yeah. Occasionally, no. I should rephrase that. Most of the workshops I run here in Australia, which is probably about half, tend to be just myself. But then when I travel overseas, I tend to hire local guides. So, for example, we run a workshop at Lake Baikal in Russia. My Russian's not very good at all, surprisingly. And, I'm not an expert on the lake either. I don't want to be driving cars around wondering whether or not I'm going to end up at the bottom of the world's deepest lake. So, we hire a local guide who knows the lake extremely well, who then hires local guides who know the lake extremely well in order to drive around. So we do like employing experts in their field in order to be able to run the best workshop possible at the locations we go to. Obviously, I know Australia extremely well. I've been to the Faroe Islands, run a workshop there because it's relatively straightforward, although driving on the wrong side of the road is a challenge. But then there's other places like the US and Namibia and Russia, for example, where we go, where it's absolutely necessary that we get a local guide. I feel, because it provides a better experience for the workshop participants.
Yeah, definitely. Sure.
Sorry to interrupt for a second. Just people who have just been connected on for the last 5 minutes and 33 seconds. We're talking to Tom Putt today. So
who? Never heard of him. That's why he's doing this podcast, so he can get a bit more.
You sound more like a golfer than a photographer, don't you?
This
Tom
is it.
Putt.
I should have been. Can you imagine? That's a next life, Matt. A next life, I'll be a golfer. Ironically, I used to live within walking distance of Royal Melbourne, which is, for those who don't know, one of the world's premier golf courses. So there you go. Anyway.
Do you play golf then or not? Or we just avoided it?
Terribly.
He just takes drone shots of Portsea Golf Club, don't you, mate?
That's it. I do. I've taken a few decent drone shots of golf courses, even though it's not my, it's not my jam. But
too green. Yeah,
they can be very picturesque. Yeah.
So, Tom, tell us a bit about yourself, mate. For people who are listening in, a lot of our listeners are European listeners and American, and it's a lot of the time the Australian market's quite closed, and there's probably a few people out that haven't heard from you. So, yeah, just give us a rough down of who you are, how you started, all that stuff.
All right. Well, feel free to interrupt because, as you can gather already, I can rabbit on. I'm 47 years old. I live in Melbourne, Victoria, Australia, which is sort of down the bottom of the world. I run a retail photography gallery selling my own artwork, which has been running for about 3 years now here on the Mornington Peninsula. So if you look up the Mornington Peninsula, you'll see that we're about an hour south of Melbourne, which is one of the best cities in the world to live in outside of lockdown. It's a great area for beautiful summer beaches and wineries. We have over 200 wineries known for their Pinot Noirs and their Chardonnays. And in the meantime, I have a partner of 10 years. We have 5 kids between us, 18, 17, 16, 15 and 14s, 4 girls and a boy. Fun and games at the moment, as you can imagine.
Crikey, mate.
That's a handful, mate. 4 teenagers.
I've got 2. That's enough for me.
Yeah. Well, we went out it was my son's birthday last night, and we went out for dinner, and I just looked at the table there, and there's 3 at the table, and it was a relatively quiet night with only 3 out of the 5 there. 2 of them are doing year 12 at the moment. So I've been photographing since I was 13 years old. I had an interest in ornithology, being the study of birds, since I was about 9 years old. And from that, bird watching, I then got into photography, and a gentleman who has since passed away just recently was very passionate about photography as well. And I used to go out almost every weekend to catch and band and release birds as part of sort of an amateur ornithological group. And I got very interested in photographing the birds as a result of that. And he mentored me for many years through my photography. And I studied a degree in psychology and sociology when I left school, but always had a passion for photography. I got into triathlon, in fact, whilst I was at uni, and started competing in triathlon, but then found that when I wasn't competing in triathlon, I was photographing it. So I used to take myself over to the Hawaii Ironman triathlon and photograph that each year and sell the photographs to, local magazines here in Australia. So I was freelancing. Mm-hmm. And then I landed a gig shortly after leaving uni, finishing my degree. I landed a gig with, at the time, Australia's premier sports photography agency, which was called Sport the Library. And they were the official photographers to the Australian Olympic team.
Oh, wow.
And this was October 1998. And, of course, Sydney had the Olympics in 2000. So I was lucky enough to get a staff job with them, which was one of the first sort of staff positions that they'd made available. They tended to just have freelancers up until then. But they needed a staff photographer, and I got the job, which was amazing. And I worked with them full-time for 3 years, sort of traveling Australia, a little bit overseas, and photographing sport just full-time, which was fantastic, amazing. I'll just never forget the time that, I'm 20-something, dead broke, and going into the bank and getting a check for 20,000 Australian dollars, which was a lot of money back then, still is now, I guess, and walking down the street, walking to the camera store and spending it on a 400mm 2.8 lens, 70-200 2.8 lens, 16-35mm 2.8 lens, a couple of camera bodies, and just having the whole kit caboodle, which was awesome. And I worked pretty hard for 3 years and learned a lot about photography, but then got a bit bored of that, and then decided that we started a family. I was going to jump into the corporate world. I don't know what I was thinking. And corporate world is definitely not for me, everybody. So I got this gig for about 18 months working in the corporate world, and that kind of got it out of my system, which was great. But I was made redundant, or my position, I should say, was made redundant. And then I started my own portrait studio because my daughter at the time was only 3 months old, and I really wanted to get back into my photography. I started a portrait studio, and I ran it for 11 years, photographing kids, families, dogs. We raised money for charity by publishing beautiful coffee table books each year, which was kind of like a lead generator for us, be a part of this coffee table book and we'll photograph your dogs. And they were a great success. And we donated, I think, did I say that? $100,000 to charity over the 11 years.
Wow. Nice, mate.
I had that
incredible
studio. I sold that back in 2014. And then I've been doing my landscape photography ever since. Probably never been poorer as a result, but never been happier, as we know. And sort of the backtrack from that, I got into landscape photography. I was always interested in photography, the outdoors. My mum used to sort of put us to bed at a regular hour. I lived in a sort of pretty strict household, but I'd always make sure about an hour before I needed to turn the light out that I'd go to bed. And I had a big bookcase in my room filled with bird books and books on national parks of Australia and things like that. And I'd always grab a few selected titles out of the bookcase every night and go to bed and just pour through them. I was not much of a reader, but I was very much a sort of a visual person. And I think that's where my interest in the outdoors really began. My dad used to take us bushwalking fairly often up in the Victorian high country, multi-day walks overnight, carrying all the gear. And then back in 1997, he took me on the Overland Track, which for those who don't know is probably one of Australia's premier multi-day walking tracks through the highlands of Tasmania, Tasmania being that little triangular island down the very bottom southeast of Australia. And I took my sort of first sort of serious roles of landscape photography film back in 97. And that sort of kicked it off. That's where I sort of really showed an interest in photographing the outdoors. And I was inspired by the likes of Ken Duncan and Peter Lick. Hope all of the listeners have heard at least of those two names.
Mm-hmm. Well, in Europe, people know Peter Lick. Ken Duncan a little bit less, mate. Yeah, Ken Duncan, right. He's got a very big name in Australia, but not so much overseas.
Correct.
Yeah. Everyone knows, and everybody knows Peter Lick, and a lot of people hate him, but we won't talk about
roaring. Yeah. Look at this, legends. So if you've watched a few of Licky's YouTube videos, you know what I'm on about there. So he's a colourful character, isn't he? We shouldn't digress, though.
No, he's done well for himself.
He sure has. I've been walking into his galleries here in Australia since 98. I think he had his first gallery in Cairns, and then Noosa, Sydney, and Port Douglas. And they've all since closed down, and he's obviously concentrated efforts in the US. But
in the US, yeah.
Always been a big admirer of his work and loved going in there. Of course, this is the days well before social media. So really the only way of sort of seeing somebody's latest work was to walk into the gallery or see it published in a magazine, really. Or the internet, of course, but then the internet was sort of just taking off, and as I said, social media wasn't around. So I used to love walking into his galleries. I'd go up there for holidays every year, and just stunning work. So I was very inspired by wanting to do that, and the same with Ken Duncan. And in fact, I know Ken reasonably well, not great, but I gave him a bit of a ribbing one year at an awards ceremony where I said, Ken, you owe me a lot of money. And he said, why is that? And I said, well, I walked into your gallery back in about 1997 and I was inspired by your work so much that ever since I've spent my time and money travelling Australia, taking panoramic photographs, and I think you owe me at least $100,000, $200,000, $400,000. I'm not quite sure, but I'll take the bill. Because
next time you tell him, next time you see him, you can tell him it's the same reason for me too, mate. That's how I got started as well. Yeah, Ken Duncan.
Right, okay. Yeah, like he's inspired a lot of, our age, I guess you'd say. I'm not sure how old you are, Matt, but
42.
Right. Yeah. We just grew up seeing his work everywhere and buying his books and being inspired by the work he's done. And so, I got my hands on a panoramic film camera. In fact, the lab I used to process my sports photography of film through had an old Fuji G617 medium format panoramic camera that takes 120 roll film. And I remember talking with the lab manager one day, and I said, I love Ken Duncan's work and all the rest of it. And he goes, I just love one of those panoramic cameras, but there's no way I could afford it. It was about at least $5,000 for the body at the time, and then another $5,000 for the lens.
Incredible.
So I think that had the fixed lens, the 105 mils. But so that was at least a $10,000 setup. But if you wanted the Linhof Technorama with the interchangeable lenses, or the Fuji GX 617 that had the interchangeable lenses, the 90, the 105 and the 180, you were paying, big dollars, right? And I didn't have that money. And Darren, the studio manager, says to me, we've got one of those. And I said, what do you mean we've got one of those? And he goes, we've got one of those panoramic cameras. Brian, the owner, bought it, and just the staff use it whenever they want. So if you want to borrow it at any stage, just let me know. And that was like, oh my God, are you serious? Like, that's incredible. So I used to take it, and he used to not even charge me for it. And I used to go on holidays and run around the countryside photographing with this camera. And I think I worked it out one day because I was really like, oh my God, I've spent a lot of money on that film and processing. And for those who are listening who are perhaps not from the film and processing days, I'm not sure of your demographic for your audience, but you'd buy a pro pack of film which had 5 120 roll films in it, the Fuji Velvia. Yeah. And it cost you $50 for that roll, for that pro pack. And then it was another $10 per roll of film to process it. So it was $100 to process that roll, and that was 25 frames. So there was 20 frames. There were 4 shots per roll. So literally it was $5 every time you took a photo, regardless of whether you got it right or not. And this is the days, pretty much before digital. So you couldn't really check the exposure. I had to make sure you get it spot on, handheld light meters and all that sort of stuff.
You studied your scene for hours, didn't you, before you took that shot?
Well, the worst thing is that you'd probably get to a spot and you'd be so excited to get there, and you'd set up your camera and you'd go and you'd nail, you'd sometimes rattle off the same four frames on the same roll of film, to have multiple copies of the same shot rather than having to scan it and do that. And then you'd shoot off that roll and you go, oh my God, I nailed it. And then you'd wander, 5-10 meters to your left or your right and realize the better composition was just to the side of you. So there you go. All right, another roll of film. There you go. Another $20. I think I shot and processed about $40,000 worth of film and processing through that camera over the years. And I don't know that I've made up for it even now. But some of my favourite shots are taken on that camera, on that format. I still have. I went through them a few years ago, and I sort of separated the wheat from the chaff and went, right, that's all rubbish. I'll probably never do anything with that, but I can't bear to sort of throw it out. So that's all sitting in a big box, and then I've got a smaller box with all of my favourites. There's probably about 100. And I said to my partner the other day, she goes to me, what is that box sitting on the bookcase there? It's literally the bookcase in our bedroom.
It's not pornography. Yeah.
It's not pornography. All right, now I get a feel for the demographic listening. Okay. I said, babe, haven't I told you about this box? And she said, nah, always been looking at it, never wanted it is. I said, babe, if the house is burning down, you grab the kids first. Actually, no, you grab this box first.
Box first.
And then you grab the kids, and then you maybe grab the dogs and you run. I said, babe, this is worth, so much to me. Some of it has been scanned. It's about $30 these days, 30 Australian dollars, $20 US to get that one of those photos scanned. So, if I was to get 100, that's a lot of money, do the maths.
It's crazy.
It's expensive. And they can get 1 gigabyte files out of them when they scan them at high res, which is amazing. I've had some of them printed, and you wouldn't know the difference. Speaking of the difference, you wouldn't know the difference between a digital and a film scan.
But Fuji Velvia was that good, mate. The dynamics in Fuji Velvia is incredible. I still pull out my old stuff now,
right,
and have a look through it through the projector, and just blown away by those 4 photos of mine that I took with the Fuji Velvia and the 70 million that I had to throw away because that was when I started.
Right. It was just such a different world, wasn't it, to photograph and film and wait to get the film back from the processing, and you're excited, but you're also extremely nervous. I equate it to like opening Christmas presents, like you're excited in anticipation that there might be something really good, but then you're also shitting your pants or scared that in fact it's going to be something really terrible and you don't want it, and you've got to act surprised and grateful for the fact that somebody's giving you a present. But, it's the same with film. You'd go to the lab and you drop it off and then you'd pick it up and you'd be like, oh, do I really want to open this? Because you have so much vested interest in the photos that you've taken.
Yeah.
You might have spent a lot of time, money. You might have, when I quit my sports photography job, I went and spent 2 weeks photographing through the Australian outback, West MacDonald Ranges in the middle of Australia and Uluru, Ayers Rock, for those who know it, stuff like that. And I just remember coming back just thinking, oh, God, what happens if this hasn't worked out, And literally I got half a dozen good frames, which is great. But, there was always that emotion. And speaking of which, I don't know what you guys are like as a bit of a segue, but I was chatting with somebody the other day about this, that I have quite a few of my friends who don't actually process their photos straight after they take them. So they might do a big trip to Iceland, right? Photograph a whole lot of aerials at Iceland. And then I say, I had the photos come out, and they go, oh, I haven't looked at them yet. And I'm like, what do you mean you haven't looked at them? Like I've been known to go out and do a shoot and on the drive home have the laptop on the passenger seat and I'm downloading before I get home so I can process it straight away.
Yeah.
So they're like, no, I haven't had time. And I think it's this, I think sometimes we process differently. Like I'm one of these people who's happy enough to download straight away. I like to know that it's backed up straight away as well. I hate having pictures on the cards, thinking what happens if I come to download it in a week's time and it just doesn't download for whatever reason. So, we know we should always have at least 3 copies of everything. So I'm very keen always to download and get those copies secured. But also too, I'm excited to see how I shot, and I don't necessarily beat myself up to the fact that I perhaps haven't got it right. That's okay. And I'd like to think that I get it right most times these days because I've been doing it for so bloody long. But I guess that's what happens when another bloody side topic is that you tend to sort of, I've heard this in sports photography or sports analogy terms as well, where you can train for a while and nothing happens and you think to yourself, oh, I'm not getting anywhere. It's like another tangent, like my wife, Mary, who's losing weight at the moment. She wanted to get herself fit again. And she's tried this, special diet for about 3 or 4 weeks, nothing happening, measuring herself, weighing herself. I'm like, babe, you've got to give it time. This is probably 6-12 months of you not eating the right stuff. And yet you're expecting a week that all of a sudden, because you've decided to eat well, you're going to look good, and you're going to start losing the weight. And then all of a sudden you see results and it can jump up, like with your photography, like with doing sport, you can train, and you think you're not getting anywhere. And then something clicks and all of a sudden you then start, I used to swim a lot and, you go to trainings every morning and blah, blah, blah. And then this is tiring. I'm not getting anywhere. I'm not getting any better. And then for whatever reason, you wake up one morning and you nail it, and you're like, oh, actually I have jumped up. And it's the same with photography. I find, years and years and years. I mean, I've been photographing now professionally for 23 years. And there's been numerous times where I've thought to myself of giving it up because I figure that I'm not getting anywhere. I'm not getting any better. I'm not the standard that I want to be. And yet, and I say that seriously, like 2 or 3 times, like what in the hell am I wasting my time for? I don't know what else I do, but then I'm just not getting where I want to go. And yet you'll go out and you'll do a shoot and just everything happens. It might be I think it's a lot of headspace. It's a lot of where you are mentally, but also too, like the light is perfect. Everything comes together. We know what it's like. Every time you point the camera left, right, center, it's you're nailing it. And they're the satisfying times. They're the ones that's the roll of film you get back where you've nailed it, and that keeps you going because the next 20 are going to be shit anyway,
Well, that happened to me recently, really. That happened to me recently, that recent trip that I've just had to Harrison Lewis in Scotland.
The one with the sky, yeah, definitely.
I've come back and I've just got, I must have about 16 images from that trip that are all keepers.
Because of the light.
And I never have that many. Never ever. It just worked 4 days, and it was just one after the other.
Yeah.
So
that's
Scotland.
I get what you mean. That's Scotland, mate. Mm-hmm. Scotland's got it's got those changing weather patterns, the weather patterns that give you the possibility. Things can just change so rapidly. So I want to tell you guys a bit of a story about Tom. I reckon this is quite funny, actually.
Hey, hold on. You haven't told me this story yet. I need to make sure if this is factually correct or not.
Sorry. This wasn't pre-approved.
No, it wasn't.
This wasn't in the show notes. What's going on?
No. I'd be very nervous, Tom.
Yeah. I'll steal your ex-girlfriend, mate. No, I'm joking. Because I'm from Sorrento. I'm born and bred from Sorrento, mate. And my wife's Italian, and so I took her over. We went on a holiday. This was a couple.
In other words, convert that to she's smoking hot.
Of course she is. Yes.
Good. Yeah, great. Okay. I'll be stalking your Instagram later to make sure.
I don't know. You won't find photos of her anyway, mate. I'm sorry. I only take photos of still objects.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm not touching that one. Go on, move on.
So I'm talking about dead people. God, I've lost my track there. My God, what's it talking about?
Sorrento and this amazing story you've got about me.
Yeah, so she likes going down into the gourmet, the boutique shops in Mornington.
Oh God forbid!
And of course, you go, you walk down and there's all the tourist shops and all these little ceramics and stuff, and we've got to get that will be lovely at home. And you turn around, it's made in China, and you're sort of like, it's not made on the Mornington Peninsula, it's made in China. Anyway, then we come
overseas where you go.
Oh, that's incredible!
Isn't this beautiful? This will look amazing. And you might be in Turkey or something, and you're buying a gorgeous plate or ceramic and all the rest of it. And you get it home, and it sticks out like dog's balls and looks horrible.
That's right. It looks good in the shop, doesn't it? That's right.
It looks good in context with all the other thousands because you're in this amazing place. It suits, but then you get it home and it's like it's a fish out of water.
Yeah.
So anyway,
go on, mate, interrupt.
We come across to your gallery, and my wife's standing at the front. She goes, "Oh my God, look at these guys' photos! Wow, they're like, they're beautiful, Matt." And I'm like, "Yep, yeah, they're great."
Move on. Let's go.
No. She goes, "Look at that one there. We should get it." And I said, "Do you want a divorce?"
Oh, yeah, that's a real slap in the face. Hey, it's okay to collect other people's work,
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's a joke.
I don't have my dream home yet. This is the consequence of divorce. But I think ideally, I would actually have a beautiful home where you have lots of wall space, of course, and I would rarely have any of my own work on the walls. I have quite a few art pieces on my walls already, a little bit of Aboriginal art that we love, and a few of my own pieces, but I love collecting other people's work because one, I love admiring other people's work, but also two, I know all my stuff. I know it like back to front. I see it all the time in my head. I see it all the time on my website. I see it all the time here in the gallery. I'm like, I love it, but I don't know that I want to see it at home as well as here in the gallery. You know what I mean? So, I regularly do print swaps, Matt. So, therefore, we'll be doing a print swap to satisfy your wife. That's okay.
Definitely, mate. Yeah.
So long as you were standing outside of my gallery and not the other guy down the road.
No. It was your gallery, mate. It wasn't the one on the corner. Don't worry.
Right.
Who was the other bloke anyway?
Do we need? See, I went there. I shouldn't have. Look, there's two of us in the street here. This is going to get really bitchy.
That's okay.
Cool.
It's okay.
This is gold. This is gold.
We like this stuff.
Yeah, this is going to be the snippet you use to promote the podcast. There's toilets in the street, and ironically, the gallery that I'm in now is the gallery he used to be in years ago, and he moved out of here. I moved down the street to a larger premises, and I moved in 3 years later. This became a shoe shop, and then the shoe shop moved out. I moved in with a gallery. And we often get mixed up, which is horrible, which means that I'm not differentiating myself enough from him, because even though we're separated by at least 100 meters, 5 minutes walk, people come in, oh, are you the same as the guy down the road? No, definitely not. And look, he's a really good photographer, don't get me wrong, but let's just say
you're better.
Well, Matt, come on, you said it, not me. No, look, it's inspired by the likes of Ken Duncan and Peter Leak, and let's just say that the saturation slider tends to follow suit.
Okay.
It goes to 11, does it? Yeah. We get it.
Yeah.
Still experimenting with Lightroom.
Don't think he knows how to open it. But anyway.
Oh, God.
But,
that's great.
No. It's fun. Hey, do you guys enter awards? Are you big on like entering awards and getting that recognition? No?
I've entered an award first time around this year. So
Matt, there's your hot wife. She just walked behind you there. Quick, grab her. Bring her onto the podcast.
Yeah, she did actually. Just walked past. Everyone says hi.
She's trying to sneak past the camera. No, she's not having a bar of it. Go on. You've entered awards in the past.
No, it's actually the first time this year I entered an award. I've never been one to do it in the past. Also because I've just never really thought that my work would compete against anyone really. But I had some pieces this year that I was happy with, and it was an award that was sort of suitable to my style of photography. So I thought, well, I'll give it a go.
How did you go?
Don't know, mate. It hasn't closed yet, so don't want to tell you who it is because I'll make a complete arse out of myself.
Yeah, right. Is it big over there? Like, you guys being over the other side of the world, is it big for landscape photographers to want to enter their work in awards to get that recognition or use it as a promotion?
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah,
It is.
definitely.
It
Right.
is. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And how big is I haven't seen a lot of your work as such, which is bad on me, but how big is aerial photography over there compared to here? Because it's huge over here.
Not as big as that over there, I would have said.
No.
Do you know the amount of shit we catch when we go out with a drone?
Right.
You know what the thing is, Tom? I think because okay, if you take an aerial shot and you're in, I don't know, the Lake District, for example, you take an aerial shot, you get the lake, and then you get a toilet, and then you get
and then a car park.
Yeah, it's like the spaces are so closed in. I mean, in the outback in Australia, you've got these massive amount of spaces where you can travel up higher and get these patterns. And I think it's like Andrew Marr. You know Andrew Marr, don't you?
I've just discovered him on YouTube. Is that right?
Yeah, doing amazing stuff with aerial photography. And I think that's what attracts a lot of Australian photographers because of the immense amount of space. You can actually get up really, really high, take a mass amount of land and just have everything completely natural.
It's interesting, and I'm glad I asked that question because I just presumed it was big, in the rest of the world compared to what it is here. It's pretty big here in Australia. I think we have relatively relaxed laws that allow us to sort of fly drones in we've got wide open spaces, as you said, Matt. So we've got that space to go and photograph pretty much where we want. You can't do it you can't drone in national parks without a permit. Close to airports, all those usual regulations. But if you're going camping or you're going for a shoot, and you can launch a drone off, and we do. And I guess we've got that landscape that lends itself to that. Anyway, I just thought I'd ask because we've got some really interesting Australian aerial photographers, Tony Hewitt, Paul Holland. These are guys you probably want to get on your podcast as well. They talk really well. Scott McCook is another one. I'll shoot you across their details.
That'd be great.
Fascinating to talk to them about their adventures. We all sort of inspire each other too. It's this little sort of micro community whereby we're sort of shut off from the rest of the world in a sense, and we all inspire each other. That's what I want to be able to say. Inspire each other.
Definitely.
And the quality of the work is unbelievable. And, you'll get somebody who'll want to get something different to everybody else, and they travel to a remote part of Australia, hire a plane or a chopper and go and shoot some incredible stuff. And the next thing you know, it's popping up on social media and you're like, oh my God, where's that? Who did that? That's incredible. There's a very, very much a competitiveness amongst us, that's for sure.
Speaking of inspiration, Tom, who's your biggest inspiration as a photographer? Someone you look back on
myself
and say,
more than anything else, I think.
Of course. I'm the same, mate.
My number one fan, really.
Don't you love when you look at yourself when you're holding your tripod in your hand at night time?
This is it. I just my middle name is Lick. I'm sure he listens to this podcast. Not that's not a reflection of me.
He will now.
I'll be getting a defamation letter from his lawyers.
No, that's okay. No, we've got that covered. I work in the Vatican, mate. Oh, don't worry about it. We'll sort it out.
Excellent. Thank you. Divine holiness. In the early days, as I said, it was the Peter Licks and the Ken Duncans who inspired me with that panoramic format. And then more recently, it's been less of that because I feel that, to be honest, their best work was back in the sort of the days that I got into their photography.
Definitely, 100% agree.
Don't find their work as inspiring as I used to. And then now it's more the aerial genre because I'm into that space. I am inspired by those guys who I said earlier, the Tony Hewitt, Tony Hewitt, Paul Holland, Scott McCook, so Australian aerial photographers in particular. And then outside of that, I tend to sort of be more inspired. So I guess, a little side note is that I'm far less, how do I put it? I wouldn't say passionate, but obsessive about my photography as I used to be. So I guess, naturally I've come to this point where I've been shooting for a long period of time. And now I'm going on this sort of slant where I want to spend a lot more time selling my work than actually taking photographs. So that's not to say that I don't enjoy taking photographs, but, we were down the beach last night, my son's 15th birthday. We watched this beautiful sunset. And part of me had it in me that, I really wish I had my camera on me to take some decent shots rather than just my iPhone. But then I wasn't, beating myself up about it either. You know what I mean? Whereas in the past I would have. And so what I really want to do and what I really concentrate now on is more admiring those people outside of photography that inspire me to want to be a better business person rather than a better photographer, because I'm happy with the stuff I'm shooting. So not to say that I haven't got anything still to learn. I'm always learning, but there's so much more for me to learn in that space of running a gallery, selling art, selling online, which I still have no idea how to do. Despite the thousands of hours I've spent on my website. So anyone who can give me tips on that, please help out.
Well, when you find out, let me know.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's another topic for another day. But, the number of people that I speak to that say, I love your website. I want to develop my own website. And they go, oh, yeah, great. Why? Oh, I want to sell some of my work. And, you kind of have to shake them, bring them back to reality and say, just because you've got a nice website doesn't mean you're going to sell anything. There's so many more facets to that to make it work, besides just having a nice, pretty looking website with a few photos on it.
Does that where the psychology degree comes in handy when you get customers walking into your gallery and they look at a print and you walk up to them and you say,
"Yeah, I think
you
so, man.
You really need that."
Just look into my eyes, not around the eyes. Look into.
It's interesting. I've been selling art for almost 20 years now through that portrait studio that I referred to earlier that I started back in 2003. It used to kill me because I'm not a natural salesperson. I'm not pushy. I'm just sort of like, I can sell in a sense that I just point out the key features and, where that would go good in your home, etc., and sort of let them make a decision as opposed to bringing any sort of sexy sales tactics. And so it really was uncomfortable for me to sit down with a client who had just taken their photographs of their newborn or their dog or their kids or anything else, and then know that the success of my business relied on me actually making that sale, and that's probably the first danger of sales, that if you're relying on the sale, you then become desperate for the sale and you actually veer away more from or less from making the sale than actually making the sale. You know what I mean? It becomes more about the money as opposed to the real reason, which is, obviously just wanting to be a professional photographer and sell your art. So there's interesting sort of things you can know about people. So, for example, you want to look up the bird personalities of decision makers. So, just to help answer your question a little, Matt, there's different types of people who make decisions based on who they are as a person. And so, like, there's people who are like peacocks who like to be all showy and, oh my God, they walk into the gallery here and they go, oh my God, I love that. And I love that. And I love that. And, oh my God. And I've got a friend of mine who's like that. She's Italian and she's gorgeous. And she pops in here to the gallery regularly. And I swear I'll have the same prints on the walls, but she does it every time. Oh my God, Tom, is that you? Oh my God, I love that. And I'm like, you said that about that last time.
Yeah.
But they're the ones who sort of like, they're called peacocks because they're the kind of like, they're showy and they're loud, but then they're easily distracted. And then they'll sort of, the phone will ring or the alarm will go on their phone and they'll go, oh my God, I've got to go and meet somebody for coffee. I'll be back. And, they never come back.
Until the next time they come in and go, oh my God.
Exactly. And these were the worst to sell to. These were the people called the owls because they're very quiet and wise and they've already made the decision and they can sometimes take a little bit of time to make a decision. But when they do, they're very definite about it. And we actually have a daughter like this and you actually can't ask any more questions on top of the questions you've already asked. So if you said to them, if they were admiring something here in the gallery and you said to them, oh, do you love that? Where could you see that in the home? You can't then, be uncomfortable with the pause and ask another question because then they have to go back to the start of that second question to then answer that. They just take time to process. So if you say to them, oh, where do you see that in your home? And they're like, yeah, I could see that in the entrance to my home. That's a great, response because then you can start walking towards that. They're very definite. But if you go and say to them, could you see it in the bedroom or the entrance or the hallway or whatever? All of a sudden they're like, oh shit, hold on a second. I was thinking about where I need to play. And now I'm like thinking, I don't know, would it look good in the bedroom or look good in the hallway? And they can be really good decision makers, but really good spenders as well. Like, we did a sale in the portrait studio once and Mary, my partner, she was a salesperson. And like this lady came in and she was actually a doctor and I hadn't met her. I'd photographed her dogs without her being there, I think. Everything had been arranged through her secretary. And we arranged the purchasing appointment through her secretary. She comes into the gallery. I warned Mary, and her secretary had even warned her, like she'll spend well, but you've just got to allow her time to make the decisions. Okay, fair enough. And like within half an hour, Mary's come out of the sale. And I'm like, oh my God, that's been terrible. What happened? Tell me. And she goes, no, it went really well. And I'm like, what do you mean? It's been half an hour. And she said, no, she found what she wanted and she's made a decision. She spent like $5,000 with us, just within half an hour. Wow. Thanks very much.
Yeah.
Knew what she wanted and out the door. So there are those sorts of people that you can sort of pick up on. That's my point. When they come into the gallery, if you can get a good vibe within the first sort of 30 seconds to a minute, you can then direct your conversation in the right way based on how they make decisions. And it is very sort of stereotypical, but it's also very true. If I'm an eagle, and Mary reminds me all the time, I'm the sort of person that when you go out to dinner, give me a menu straight away because I don't like waiting. I'm impatient. Take my drink order because, again, I want to have a drink in my hand, and then give me a menu and I will scan through it, find something that I like pretty quickly, and then just close the menu.
Yeah.
And I'm comfortable with my decision. I'm okay with that. I don't need to look through the rest of the menu and confuse myself and get indecisive about it all. I just find something, yep, that sounds great. I'm ready to order. Whereas you get the other people who, the peacocks, you can imagine the peacocks at dinner, can't you? They sit down, they're like, oh my God, Matt, how you been? It's been so long. Tom, Paul, oh my God. And, like half an hour later, the waitress, comes to the table and says, I'll probably write the ready order. And she's like, Oh my God, I haven't even looked at the menu. Oh my God, hold on, give me another 5 minutes. And, like half an hour later, they still have, you know what I mean? I'm stealing all of Mary's good lines here. If she listens to this podcast, she'll go, I taught you all that. But anyway, I digress.
Mate, that must be satisfying. The only customers I have got my calendar on the back of their toilet door, so.
This is it. Yeah. Back of the dunny door. Where's that going? Back of the dunny door.
Yeah,
do you guys produce much or sell much of your own work?
Tom Peters, Photo Ninja. I'm sure you've got a lot to ask.
Really?
About this? Yeah.
Well, we both failed miserably this time.
Yeah, I've been selling quite a lot for me. Prints like seasonal prints, like when the bluebells are out or when it's autumn. Right. They do quite well around my way because the countryside's very sort of picturesque. So everyone wants a picture of the bluebells or in it, maybe not in their toilet, but anyway, so somewhere on the hallway we'll probably do just fine. But I sort of ventured in. I bit the bullet. I bought. I'd rather not digress how much money I spent on prints, but just in case my missus is listening.
Yeah.
But
we'll bleep that out. We'll bleep that out. I've spent amount of dollars.
And I was there for all day, like at local fairs and things like that, and I haven't sold anything. It's so frustrating. But I did the same sort of thing as you. I was Tom. I was sort of thinking, I'm getting the hang of this, like reading people.
Yeah.
And you see the same person that I read an hour ago, and he's gone round again. And I thought, nah,
you haven't got it at all.
I thought you were going to say that what we found with the gallery and what we've found over selling art and running a small business for many years is that it can take 6, 8, 10 times for people to see you before they actually buy from you. So we've looked at stats on our website where we've had somebody visit half a dozen times before they've even bought a book. Like our Shopify website tells us when they first came on and saw the website, how many sessions they've had since then, et cetera, et cetera. We had a lady look at over 100 sessions. Now, whether this was because every time she opened up a computer, it opened up to our page and refreshed the page, I'm not sure. But, we'll have people that might see our book somewhere and then they will then perhaps walk into somebody's home and see some of our art on their walls, their friends' walls. We've got a van that we've got wrapped with a photograph of a beautiful aerial beach scene, and we use that to deliver all the artwork to people's homes. And so often that gets seen around the place, and then, I've seen your van driving around, or they'll walk past the gallery and then they'll go, are you the guy with the van? And I go, yeah. So it's all those reminders that people need. And the other thing with art is that people are so afraid to make their own decision, make a wrong decision.
Yeah.
Particularly with our work, just for those listening, tends to wall art. You can look on my website. It's tomputt.com, TOMPUTT.com. Our wall art starts Australian dollars from about 600 Australian dollars all the way up to, $10,000, $15,000 if you're buying a limited edition aerial. And so the average spend is the $2,000 to $3,000 mark. So it's people who haven't purchased art before. They know they want something for their wall. They've got a blank wall because they've renovated or they've bought a new home, and they're not sure about what's going to look good, what size they should get it in, what medium they should get it in. We sell framed prints, canvas prints, acrylic prints, and metal prints. You guys, it's called different things all over the world, like face mount and stuff like that. But so there's those different formats to choose from as well. So often people just need a bit of a helping hand, a bit of a guide, like what's going to look good. And I often just say, look, art's very personal, but it can also have a fantastic emotion that draws out of you, but it should come immediately when you see the art, in my experience. You shouldn't have to convince yourself of the art. You shouldn't have to walk in and go, oh, do I like it or not? Yeah, I guess so. If you do that, you're probably buying the wrong piece of art. You'll probably 12 months, 2 years' time, look at it and go, we should get rid of that. I really don't like it, And I say to people, my art's too expensive, or you're spending too much. I don't say too expensive. I say you're spending too much money. My art's not nearly expensive enough. That's another thing. I'm about to do a YouTube. I'm about to start a whole series of YouTubes. And one of the next topics I'm going to speak on is that whole psychology of artists selling art and how they tend to undervalue themselves. And often what we tend to do, I mean, creatives are just notorious for this. And I'm absolutely speaking from experience here, is that we tend to judge the buyer and the price we're charging for our art based on what we can afford and what we feel is expensive or cheap versus what the buyer, can afford or is comfortable paying. And we have no idea. And yet we tend to project ourselves onto that person and then think to ourselves, oh God, I can't charge $3,000 for that because I don't know that I could really afford that. I mean, it's worth it, but I've got $3,000 in my bank account now to go and buy it. And yet my partner, Mary, always says, just pretend that they've inherited their grandmother's fortune. And so, just pretend they've got all the money in the world and that they're happy spending that sort of money. I mean, we know there's luxury brands like, Prada and Gucci and Ferrari and all those things that is the product worth that really amount of money? It's just another handbag, right? It's made from probably the same materials. It's just got the Prada label on it rather than, something else. And yet there's those people who earn a lot of money and reward themselves by spending it on expensive things, and so therefore who are we to say, well, our artwork's not worth that much or we shouldn't charge that much, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, there's been a few times where I've sort of gone, they say, oh, so how much is that? And you go, that's $5,997 or that's $6,000 and stuff like that. And as it comes out of your mouth, you're sort of thinking, shit.
Hey, I think that when I'm saying 100 quid. I'm sitting here thinking, holy shit.
Paul, you're under. You should be putting it on for 120, mate.
Mate, this is the biggest.
Slash your price.
Biggest problem. It's the biggest problem because you just really don't know how it's pricing your work is a major issue because you just really don't know where to go with it.
Okay, you got to understand though. I mean, sorry, Tom, if I can permit to say this, you're, a photographer who's basically based your career on your audience is the public.
Yes.
You don't try and sell to other photographers.
Oh God, no. Because, no, they don't have the money for it.
If I can tell you now, if I opened a shop, I would just have people coming in saying, "Oh, can you tell me what f-stop you use with that shot there?" And that would be my customers because I've just spent years just traveling around other photographers, and you compliment each other's work, you do workshops, you collaborate together, and that's my audience. Your audience is the public, and because of that, you're photographing for the public, you're printing for the public. You have a shop that costs money to, the rent to keep that place open, the cost of actually printing, plus, everything else that you've got, the travel expenses, everything on there. At the end of the day, there's no way that you can undervalue your print for that reason. For me, for example, if I'm going to go and sell a print, I did a couple of fine art prints lately, 90 by 60 fine art prints, and I got them framed by a local Italian framer who did these beautiful prints that were actually suited to the prints, and I sold them, and I sold them at €500 a piece, and I thought to myself, did I undervalue it too much? But then I thought at the end of the day, look, it's not my business to run. I don't have a shop like you. I have other forms of entry with photography. I mean, if you have a gallery, I mean, that's the prices you're going to expect to sell for, at least, I think.
I think it's all context. It's a great point you make, Matt. There's various reasons why you charge what you charge for your work. I've been doing this for many, many years. I enter competitions in order to win awards to, bump up the ego and perhaps rank yourself, in the world context, perhaps a little in terms of where your photography might be at. It's a very good promotional tool for me, things like that.
Well, yeah, so, definitely.
I like being able to say that. And just think, if you walk past a hairdresser, right, and you're looking for a haircut and you don't know that hairdresser from a bar of soap, right? You judge that hairdresser based on how it looks, as in, oh, does that look like a nice place or not, And then if they've got all, how they tend to do, hairdressers do this extremely well, by the way. Hairdresser of the year 2021, hairdresser of the year 2020, no matter what competition they might have won it in, it might be the local community hairdresser, who cares? People see that. It's like a wine, with the wine label, and they put those little, stickers on them.
The little silver stickers on the edge.
Again, like, oh, that's got a lot of stickers on it. Must be a good wine, and that's in my price range. I'll buy that, and 9 times out of 10, it's a good indicator, right? So it's the same here. People are walking past the gallery and they're like, well, who is this guy? I've never heard of him before. I mean, I know who I am, and I know that my work's good, and I know that I've been doing it for friggin' 34 years, dedicated my life to it, poured my heart and soul into it. Every dollar I've earned, it's gone back into the business, et cetera, et cetera. But to the average person walking past for the first time, they're like, well, who is this bloke? I mean, there's so many variables, so many hurdles. This gets back to you there, Tom, about what you're saying about selling in the markets, right? Mm-hmm. There's so many hurdles. This is the best thing in the world. Must be like an artist wanting to sell their work, because that's like, oh, I'd love to be able to sell. I take landscape photographs for a living. How good would it that people want to buy it? That's great, and it's absolutely possible for everybody. But as a retail space, as an art gallery, it's fraught with danger. If you think about it, you're absolutely nuts doing it because A, you've got to be in the right place, as in, foot traffic. B, you've got to be able to afford the rent. C, you've got to rely that that person walking past is actually interested in photography or art in general. Then they've got to be interested in photography. Then they've got to be interested in landscape photography. Then they've got to find something that they actually like. And then they've got to decide where they're going to put it. And then they've got to decide that the price is something that they're willing to pay. There's so many hurdles. I've just jumped over 10 different hurdles, right, to get to that end point.
Yeah, it's not like a like on Instagram, is it?
No, it's like the stars aligning. The stars have got to align in order for you to win photo comps. Well, the stars have got to align in a lot of ways for you to be able to sell art as well. And that's not to say it's impossible, but it is a very difficult. I often question myself and go, well, how stupid am I? If you want to make money, don't go into selling art. It's you always see the 1 or 0.1 percenters who are doing extremely well, the Peter Licks of the world, who are selling, hundreds of millions of dollars a year, and good on him.
But we hate him, though.
We hate him. We love to hate him. No. Where I get stuck with Peter and other people who shall not be named, maybe a local photographer in the same street as me, is that
the one that doesn't know how to open Lightroom, is that the one?
Yeah, that's it. They sell their work. They sell their work as limited editions, which is pretty much a sales tactic, because it's not truly a limited edition, because it's hundreds of prints rather than just 10 or 20. I mean, we know in the art world a true limited edition print is something that's probably one of 5, one of 10. It's really limited. That when you're buying that artwork, you're buying something that's not going to be seen on the next door neighbor's wall. You're acquiring a piece of art that is extremely limited, and that's the value in it. The problem I have is that when they go and sell that piece of art, they're overinflating the prices within the gallery beyond what the market is willing to pay, because the salesperson says it's worth $30,000. And yet if you go and try and sell that on the open market outside of that gallery to any other interested art buyer, they're not going to pay $30,000. It's worth a fraction of that. And so I don't like the fact that these galleries, I'm not referring to anyone in particular.
No, of course you're not.
Tend to sell it as an investment when it's not. It doesn't. It's actually worse than that. Very few times will you buy photographic art that will appreciate in value. Even mine. I don't ever use the word investment. I sell limited editions. They're all of my beautiful aerial abstract work. There's at least 200 of them available on the website. If I sold every single one of them tomorrow, it would net me somewhere in the order of $20 to $30 million from face value. And we have sold them at $8,000, $10,000, $12,000, $13,000 is our highest print that we've sold. Wow. So there is a market for it in a sense. But again, we don't ever sell it as an investment. We don't say, that, in years to come, this will be worth so much more because we're, jacking up the prices every time we sell an edition. In order, the people say to me, so what is it that has an artist's work appreciating value? Again, there's so many variables, but you have to be producing really unique art. You have to be known in the art world as such. You have to have a small edition, I'd say. My wife, my lovely wife, Mary, says that the best thing that could happen to me is I get hit by a bus, because then, my work is worth more, because, an artist's work is generally worth more when they're dead rather than alive,
Yeah, see, my wife says that so she can sell my camera gear, mate.
Go on holidays, nice holidays.
Yeah, she's sick of hearing about it. That's why it is.
God, you would hate to think of the amount of money that we've invested in camera gear. And
my God.
How's that 640Z doing for you anyway, mate? Just
I killed it.
Always just try and what?
I killed it. I've killed 2 now. I've got what Matt's referring to is that for many, many years I have always wanted to have a medium format digital camera, and I almost went down the route of taking out a loan and investing in a phase 1, and I sold my house to start this business a few years ago, and I had some cash and bought a Pentax 645Z medium format digital camera, 50 megapixels, beautiful camera. Was out on a shoot one evening doing, the steel wool painting with light stuff on this jetty over the water here on Port Phillip Bay. And I was using a second tripod, a dodgy one. The clip broke, the plastic clip broke, and my tripod with my camera ended up in the water, in the salt water of all things. It's nighttime. I jump into the water not knowing how deep the water was. Grab the camera. The LED screen on the back of the Pentax was like lighting up the whole of the Port Phillip Bay. The fish were swimming around it, attracted to it. And I'm just thinking, oh my God, this is terrible.
Oh,
I've got my mobile phone in my pocket and I've already jumped into the water, so I've killed that too.
No.
This is like double. This is like you go, if you're a car enthusiast and you save up all your money to buy a beautiful car, this is like taking it out for a drive and crashing the thing, like this is just the worst nightmare, right? Or leaving it on the street and somebody rams into the back of it, so into the rice and all the rest of it. And I've got a very good insurance broker, and this was a Saturday night, and about 10:30 at night I messaged him and said, Frank, can you check if my insurance covers me for saltwater damage? And about 8 a.m. on a Sunday morning, he messages back and says, yeah, it is, mate. Why? What's happened? And I'm like, this is what happened. Got a payout, which was great. And then bought a second one, and I've been using that for a while. And I've always wanted the beautiful, don't know, for those who know the Pentax system, but they do this wide angle 28 to 45, which is, I guess, the equivalent of sort of like a 20 to 30, something like that. But it's hideously expensive. So there's this older model 25 mil prime lens, which is very rare to find, very rare. They go for about $4,000 or $5,000. And I picked one up earlier this year for about $3,500, right? It was great. Oh, fantastic. I've got this. I think I bought it on eBay from Japan. And I go on the first workshop in over 12 months. We go to Arnhem Land, very remote northern Australia, guys, where sort of Crocodile Dean was filmed. And we're in this troop carrier, and we were going along this dodgy road. And the next thing you know, he drives into this hole, and the whole vehicle just goes sideways like this. And my camera that's sitting next to me on my lap, on the bench seat of this troopy, ends up smashing on the metal floor of this troop carrier.
Oh, no.
And I pick up the camera and I'm like, oh, no, it looks okay. But the barrel of the lens is like on an angle like this. God. Totally wrecked the lens. Thankfully, insurance paid for that. But in the meantime, I went and did it was the wet season. That's right. And every afternoon you get these rainstorms that come through, and it's bloody brilliant. If you're up there that time of year, it's incredible. And it just got wet too many times, and I took it out for a shoot one day, and it was turning on and then not working properly, and then it's not wanting to turn off. And I rang Pentax and I said, there's something wrong with this camera. And they go, oh, that doesn't sound good. That sounds like moisture in the motherboard. And it literally won't turn on anymore. So I've ruined 2 of them, and I've finally said, okay, I think that's it. I'm not am not going to shoot with that system anymore, and I now shoot with the Nikon Z7 mirrorless system, which
That's blasphemy. That's the only reason I got you on this podcast is because I thought you shot with Pentax, you prick.
Well, I have for many years shot with Pentax. It's been brilliant. But in the meantime, I've got many beautiful photographs here in the gallery shot on the Pentax. But interestingly, I would actually go and buy another one. You can buy them on, because they don't make them anymore, and I don't know what Pentax is doing with them.
Yeah.
They've sort of missed the boat because, now Fuji have got those beautiful 100 megapixels.
The GFXs. Oh.
Yeah. What do you guys shoot with, by the way?
I've got
Sony for me.
Sony 7R4, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I've got 2 K1s and a brand new K3, mate.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I don't know why they didn't continue to develop it, because at the time when that Z7 came out, not the Z7, the Pentax 645Z, that was a game changer. That was 50 megapixels of joy for 10 grand, which was 5 times less than what a Pentax cost you. A phase one, an entry phase one was 50 grand minimum, So it really was a game changer, but then they haven't upgraded it ever since. They really needed probably 2 or 3 years to go to come out with 100 megapixel. So I used the Z7 and with the mirrorless lenses that they're now specifically making for these mirrorless cameras, I bought a 14 to 30 f4 and a 24 to 70 f4. And I said to myself I was never going to use f4 lenses because, why use f4 when you can use 2.8? Because the quality of the glass, obviously, the quality of glass tends to be better on a 2.8.
Of course it does.
You get a better, a stop more of aperture, right? But the quality out of these lenses and this camera is phenomenal. I wouldn't use it otherwise, but I won a Z6. I sold that. I had this lens left over. I thought, I'll give this, this mirrorless system a go. This is clearly where we're going with things. Everything's going to be mirrorless. Besides the fact that I've got one of those f-stop Talopa bags, that you can carry. I think it's about a 40-liter bag. You can shove so much stuff into that, and it just got heavier and heavier and heavier. And I'm like, I don't want to carry all this gear around with anymore. So having a lighter system, I've got that camera with the 2 lenses, and it's 1.6 kilos total. And so it's really lightweight. It doesn't feel like a real camera, mind you. It's pretty sort of, it's small being mirrorless and it's lightweight, but it's where I'm at, where if I want to do a lot more hiking with my son, for example, it's just, I can't carry that Pentax. I would prefer to carry the mirrorless with a drone, go the Mavic 3 versus my Pentax and not being able to carry the drone. You know what I mean? And as I said, the quality of the files out of this Pentax, it's 46 megapixels. It's amazing.
Yeah, beautiful camera. We were just talking about Simon Booth before. I don't know if you've heard of Simon Booth. He's got a YouTube channel, and he's from the UK, and he uses the 645Z. Brilliant photographer. Go and check him out. Very, very knowledgeable. Yeah, takes some beautiful photography with that camera and still uses it now. Yeah.
Yeah, Simon's a really knowledgeable bloke. He's very good at finding gems in nothing, if you know what I mean.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. He'll go out in what you would call very average conditions, very average sort of non-spectacular places, and he'll come out with something that's pretty spectacular. He's very good, very good. And you do learn stuff when you're watching as well.
How big? I'm only new into this whole YouTube thing, believe it or not. I mean, I've watched YouTube for years, but it seems that learning photography through YouTube, landscape photography in particular, seems to be quite a thing. Is that right?
Oh yeah.
Certainly in the UK.
Yeah.
Really big, very, very big in the UK. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So there's a lot of people that go out and they use their phone and they record themselves and they put together a little, this is how you shoot this, that, and the other. Is that right?
Well, I think it's more so. No, guys are getting pretty serious cameras. They're not using their phone. They're buying pretty serious cameras to use for vlogging. Yeah.
Are they recording it themselves, or are they bringing a videographer out to record?
No. They're recording it themselves. Yeah.
They've got more time on their hands than then they know what to do with it. Sounds like, Jesus, I wish I had the time to do that.
And
I often think to myself that
time.
I should do that. I think, you could get a nice camera angle down here and set up a second tripod there and all the rest of them are like, I can't be bothered. It's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work, that's for sure.
It's a lot of work. I've only just started moving into it, Tom, because of these two pricks sitting next to me here. Well, on the screen they are anyway. They're actually sitting next to me.
Right. No. I was actually going to admire, for those who can't see, because you're listening to this rather than watching it, these three guys have some brilliant lighting going on in their little setups here. Like Paul's got some side lights coming in there, some directional light. Matt's got the most rank setup ever. He's got this screen. He's got these ISO screen right next to him, and he's just pumped up the
Excuse me, it's BenQ, mate.
Thank you.
It's not as good quality as my ISO screen. Don't do it.
What is it about then? Let's go. I don't know how much time we've got, by the way.
No, just keep rolling. Just keep going, mate. Go for it.
Going.
Yeah, we love it.
I don't want to keep going too late. I could talk underwater, as you can tell.
We're used to it with Matt.
We're used to it with me, mate. It's an Aussie trait.
Okay, good. We're kindred spirits. We're brothers from another mother. So how is it seen if you're sponsored by somebody to always be promoting that on your YouTube channel? Because I feel, well, I don't know. Oh, shit, I better ask, is anyone sponsored and therefore required to mention their sponsors on their YouTube channel? You three or not?
We are.
No,
we are
not required to.
Yeah.
No. A lot of us, we all collaborate with. I mean, I'm a Pentax European photographer. They don't like to use the term ambassador over here,
right?
So that way you're not actually responsible for the brand in any way. So I'm a Pentax photographer, but the material that I put out's completely up to me. I don't feel like I have to do something for them. You know, that there's no agreement actually made. I just put out what I want to.
Right.
I suppose especially on YouTube, if you're doing specifically a brand review because they've actually given you something for free, like, a brand new tripod, and said, do a 10-minute review on it, you're kind of obliged to say something nice about it, aren't you? If you're doing a review on it, but
I don't know. If there's no consequence, at the end of the day, that's the Well, if you've just been given it, if you've been loaned it, that's a different story to being given
for sure.
It's yours to
definitely.
keep.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Probably it can sway the argument one way or the other, can't it?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, definitely. I think as far as the public's concerned, though, it's. I don't know whether it's looked at the best.
No, it's not.
What would you say, Tom?
No.
It's not. You catch a bit of shit for it.
I'm new to this new YouTube thing. I'm actually, again, another side project we could go on is I've recently got into cryptocurrency.
I was just going to ask you actually about NFTs.
No, don't go to me
doing
about
NFTs?
I'm not. I don't see the value in NFTs at the moment, in a sense that you buy one of my digital images, and yet I charge a ridiculous amount of money for it. Like, what are you buying? What are the rights usages? Does that mean that I can print from it still? I'm not familiar with that space, so maybe that's a conversation we can have.
From what I understand is you're selling the rights to the original file. However, that doesn't mean to say you can't still sell your work. You can still print and sell because it's your work. They're buying the original. How I had it explained to me was there's millions of copies of the Mona Lisa, but there's only one original. Right. So people are buying that one original file.
Can they do with it whatever they want?
They can print for their own use. I'm not sure they can sell it, however.
It's all dependent on the contract, obviously, that you tie in with that NFT.
Yeah.
But they can sell it again. Say
they can sell it on.
They can on-sell it. Yeah. And if you tie into that contract, the clever people actually tie into their contract that once every time it's sold, you actually receive a commission from that sale.
Commission, yeah. That's
what
I've tried.
I think in the art world, that's actually, I'm not sure if this is worldwide, but if you want to watch a brilliant movie on this that I watched on a plane a few years ago when we actually used to catch planes and watch movies.
Yeah, I remember them. Yeah.
Was called The Price of Everything. Has anyone seen it?
No.
It was put out by HBO a few years ago in America. It's called The Price of Everything. You can watch it on YouTube. You can, I think you pay for the download. It's $5. It's fascinating look at the art world because it talks about how art used to be collected in order to just appreciate the art, whereas these days art's very much a commodity, a lot like buying a share, where you will get it's such a big business these days. So, for example, you'll get a rich person, let's call them a rich person, who wants to invest their money, diversify rather than just buying, property and shares. They might want to invest in a bit of art because somebody says to them, you can make a shitload of money out of art. They go to an art buyer and say, look, I want to invest some money in some art. I've got a few million. What do you recommend I buy? The art buyer says, oh, look, this person's up and coming. And it's a bit like buying a share when it's first gone onto the share market. It's at a low price, because it's first come on. They probably haven't proven themselves, but you got a good feeling about them. And then this artist skyrockets, and you've got this piece of art that you may not even have hung on your wall. You might just have bought it, put it in storage, and 5 years later you wheel it out again. And, Matt Bishop, he's just exploded. He's the next Licky. He's got the looks, he's got the beard, he's got the personality, He's got the wife. And all of a sudden that $10,000. What did you say?
He's got the wife.
He's got the wife.
He's got the wife. He's got the whole wife.
The Ferrari.
And then the Ferrari, all the rest of it. And I'm in the wrong game if Matt's got a Ferrari. And then all of a sudden, it's worth $100,000. So like it's gone 10 times in 5 years, right? And they'll just unsell it at auction. And what used to happen in the past was that the artist would not receive any of that commission on the resale, and artists would get very narky about that. And yet the art buyers or the curators would say, well, hold on a second, I've just taken your brand from $10,000 to $100,000, so all of a sudden you don't have to sell stuff at $10,000 anymore. You can sell it at $100,000. Yeah, fair enough. But still, I think these days now, certainly in the US, there's like a royalty fee that they get where it's 10 or 20% on the sale price. So they're not missing out on that cut when it's resold, because art can be a lot about just churning. It's not I collect that art piece because I like that artist. It's like, no, I'll buy that Banksy because I know
it's an investment.
It's an investment. It's worth a lot of money, and if I hang on to it for 10, 20 years, it's going to be worth a whole lot more later. And I don't really care who it's painted by, so long as it goes up in value. So it's huge, and that movie, The Price of Everything, is fascinating. Look at the art world from various different angles. Yeah, I'd certainly recommend
I can find it. I'll drop the link in the show notes as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it will be on YouTube, so I'll send you across the link to that. But it's
cool.
If you're interested in art and even those, I would say for those listening who are interested in selling their photography, if whether it be through a gallery or at a local market, whatever, it's just interesting to look at and see the psychology behind all of this. I don't know how I got onto that. It was all about endorsing products through YouTube, et cetera, et cetera. Are most of the people who are doing YouTube doing it because they love teaching, or are they doing it because they see a way of monetizing the channel?
You can't really monetize that much, mate, through YouTube, I don't think, unless you've...
Well, if you explode and have, millions of subscribers like you, Matt, come on.
I think it's a case of... for a lot of people, I think it's a case of trying to build your brand.
Right. Yeah, it just makes your profile. You hit a wider audience, pretty much. Yeah,
I mean, the way
build
you go
your brand so then you can sell more workshops or sell more photos, that sort of thing.
Everything. Because I think the way that you look at it is the more followers you have, the more subscribers you have, the bigger fan base you've got to actually be able to sell these workshops to, sell your work to in general. I think
that's just a way another promotional tool.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
It's a fair bit of work, though. I mean, I've not gone down that path yet, but there's a lot of work that can, as we've talked about, going into producing a video. You've got to invest the time.
Yeah, the edit and even the editing alone, mate, is huge. I've only just done just a few videos recently, and I mean, I've spent a week editing a 15, 20-minute video.
Trying to make yourself look good.
Yeah, that's right, mate.
Yeah, he still looks shit, so
I'll have to jump on and have a look.
No, it's looking
I'll have to
better,
heckle
mate.
him from the comment section.
The last video you put out was night and day compared to your other ones, mate, honestly.
Yeah.
Oh, I think that's a backhanded compliment there from Paul.
No, not at all.
Yeah, got a few tips from these fellas, just about a few techniques in editing. You just don't think about really, because I was just new for me. You know, I've always just. It was our last episode we were talking about YouTube, and I was just saying it was funny. Like I probably had more followers before I did YouTube. Now people realise how much of a loser I am. It was just easy. It was just to show my images, and I had no face behind. It was just like Matt Bishop, taking F16, and oh wow, what an awesome shot! And now I like put it out there and like, oh, you're that bloke on YouTube, aren't you?
Yeah. He's writing into YouTube and he's going, how come my 1,000 subscribers is down to 400? There's something wrong with your algorithm. Can you please look into that? Yep.
Yeah. Welcome to our world. That's what it's like every week.
Yeah. So, Tom.
It's pretty competitive, though, I would have thought, by the way.
It is. Yeah.
Like everybody wants to teach you how to take a photo and use a wide angle lens and all the rest of it. But that's not to say you shouldn't do it, because we all come to it with our own style and personality. And
well, I think that's part of the point, though. I don't think it can ever be oversaturated, because I think people either like you or they don't.
Yeah.
And people learn from the people that they like, and kind of enjoy watching. So I think, yeah.
And look, I haven't spent a lot of time watching your channels, but I will now that we have this this connection, this relationship, shall we say.
Great, mate.
If you want some tips, I definitely YouTube the best of Peter Lick, because I think you'll get a lot of good tips from that.
Really?
Right, okay.
No.
Really?
Have you not seen his stuff?
No.
Have you not seen his stuff?
No, I haven't.
Really.
No way.
There was some videos years ago where he'd be on the phone to somebody and there'd be one of his workmates sitting in a bath looking at a porno, and he'd be chatting about, oh yeah, serious. It was just bad. It was so bad. You were like, are you for real? Like, they obviously sat around a table and went, we should come up, this would be great, and then we could have you in the bath with the porno, and then this, that, and the other. And they got really excited late one night. And they went, the worst thing is they went and executed it, and then they actually bloody put it on YouTube. Oh, I'm not sure if it's still there, but oh my God.
I'm going to check it out as soon as we get off. I'm getting straight on there. Yeah.
Again, we'll put that in the show notes as well.
Look,
we certainly will.
Guys don't waste their time, do they? Jesus. Yeah, what do they do late at night? Yeah. What were you going to ask, Matt? You were going to ask me something very insightful then. We were going to bring the conversation back to a very much a more meaningful level.
Workshops.
Yes.
So tell us about your workshops. You do quite a lot.
Yeah, I've been running them since 2005.
Wow.
That was after I was made redundant from that corporate job. And a friend of mine through the photography industry said, you should start running workshops. I went, oh, really? Why do you say that? Oh, well, there's not many people doing it, and you've got, the gift of the gab, all the rest of it. And so there were only really two other photographers here in Australia at the time running workshops, landscape photography workshops as such. Yep. So it wasn't big here at all. Like, it's obviously everyone runs workshops these days. But I actually saw them through, I used to buy Outdoor Photographer magazine out of the US. And I used to see the ads for workshops in the back of there all the time and wonder what this workshop thing was all about. So it was something that was really new. We ran about a half a dozen in the first year. This is my mate Glenn Campbell and I. Glenn's based in Scotland now, Inverness. We just started running them and they just took off. We had 5 people come on the first workshop. We advertised it on the internet, charging bugger all, of course. But ever since day one, it's really sort of, you know where I'm coming from? Ever since day one, the formula hasn't really changed. The idea is that the price is all inclusive other than airfares. So we pick them up from the airport, the accommodation's included, meals, everything. So literally we say to our clients, you could lose your passport at the airport and you wouldn't have to worry. You know? We would literally take care of everything. So that's all inclusive. My clients like that. We call that a luxury photographic experience because we're not cheap. An average workshop here in Australia, average price for a workshop here in Australia for a week or 5 days, 4 nights is about 5,000 Australian dollars. So about 1,000 Australian dollars a day, all inclusive.
Yeah. But it's an investment. It's an investment, and that's what I always say to people. If you're getting into photography, the biggest investment is go on a workshop.
Yes.
Because if you can earn the valuable information from a professional landscape photographer, it just helps you just take those giant steps. It just avoids you getting muggled up in the beginning. You need to, those workshops are just invaluable. They've got no price, I don't think.
Yeah, I like what you're saying there.
Don't tell him that. Don't tell him that. It'll be 10 grand tomorrow.
Can you repeat that last bit again, please, Matt? I just want to get it down word for word for my website. I like to think that we have a really core group of clients that come with us every year. Like literally, we've had one client that's their husband and wife. They've come almost 20 times on a workshop in the last 10, 12 years.
Wow.
Christ.
Awesome.
And so we do get those sort of regulars, and they come back because I think they enjoyed the experience of going away and indulging in their passion, which is photography. Yeah. So I'm not sure whether or not they're there to learn a lot. They learn, of course they do, and that's my teaching style. I'm not one of these photographers who runs workshops so I can go to these places. I could probably invest my time better here in the gallery and spending time with my family than necessarily going away just to shoot that location. Yeah. But I run them because I love running them. I love the client interaction. I love being around these people. They're not clients, they're friends.
Yeah.
And I love obviously traveling, hence why I do it. Otherwise I wouldn't do it. But they come away because they love that experience. Like, so for example, going to Lake Baikal in Russia, right? Who the hell knows where it is, how to get there, what do you do when you get there, like how am I going to get to the lake from the nearest airport, all the rest of it, like you've got all those conundrums. And so what I like to think is that we solve all those problems for people and get them there when they otherwise wouldn't. And that's part of what they pay, for the workshops, that's why they're $10,000, $15,000 as opposed to, well, I'll go and do it myself for $5,000. Well, good luck to you. I don't know that I could do it, because you just don't know what to do. So I guess that's one of the benefits. One of the many benefits of coming on a workshop is the not only what you get taught, but also the fact that you'd like to think the photographer is going to get you to the right place at the right time in order for you to get those great photographs. And you could probably work it out yourself, but you'll probably spend 2 weeks trying to work it out rather than a few days. You know what I mean? Yeah, we go to a place here in Australia, look it up if you've not seen it before, for all those listening, called Karijini, Karijini. And it's this most amazing series of gorges in the middle of Western Australia, out in the middle of nowhere. And when we go there, I've been there, I've spent 45 days there now running workshops over the years, and you can't go into the gorges just at any time you want and take a nice photo because the light changes so quickly. It's like Antelope Canyon and those sorts of places. Not that I've been, but I imagine it's the same. Yeah. That if you want to get the right light, you have to be there at a very specific time, like within an hour, or half an hour. You've got that window of opportunity. And so, again, you could probably go there yourself and do it, but you'd probably take 2 weeks to work out what I've worked out already, and so I can get you to the right place at the right time. I've looked at other people's workshops and I look at their itineraries and it's down to every 15 minutes what they're doing. And I can't understand how they run workshops like that. We're very much about, you get to a location, you spend as much time there as you want, often 2-3 hours, and then we'll go back and grab some brekkie and, do some Lightroom and stuff like that. So we're not up all day, up all night, shooting. Our clientele are 50 plus. As I said, they have a passion for photography, but they're not looking to do it as a career. They just love taking photographs. They love getting away. They love going away for a holiday and experience.
And mingling with other people with a common interest.
Yeah, absolutely. The socialization is a big part of it too, Matt. You're quite right. I probably underplay that. As part of what we get paid as workshop leaders is the fact that we bring you guys together. We organise to bring you guys together. So you'll make, new friends. You'll get the opportunity to speak photography 24/7 if you want, which often your partners don't, get you to do when you're at home. Mention the word camera again and I'll kill you type thing. So you can talk.
Nothing about that, mate.
No, nothing. You can talk shop 24/7, and then get to meet people and literally we've had people that have come along who travel outside of my workshops, or only come on a workshop because that other person's coming. You know what I mean? So they do form great friendships and great relationships as a result of you putting that workshop on. So there's all those, I guess, byproducts that happen as a result of you running a workshop and charging what you charge.
Yeah. It's more about
Does that answer your question, Matt?
Yeah, bloody oath. Yep, for sure.
Yeah, we go all over the place. Australia, we run probably half a dozen here every year. For the first time this year, we ran a heli safari through the Kimberley. That was really unique and probably something that I've never seen done here before in Australia, where we hired let me get this right. I need a coffee. Bell Jet Ranger helicopters. We hired 2 of them for a week to go through the Kimberley. Now, for those who don't know the Kimberley, it's in far northwest of Australia. I'm in Melbourne. If you draw a line diagonally across the whole of Australia through the middle to the opposite side diagonally, that's where the Kimberley is. It's the size of Victoria, which is the state in which I live. It's a huge expanse of wilderness. It's probably one of the last remote wildernesses here in Australia. And very popular for people to want to go during the dry season, because in the wet season it's basically closed off all the roads, etc. You can catch boats along the coastline, but you can get some inclement weather. So you can do beautiful cruises up and down the coastline that go for a week or 2, but that's generally during the dry. We went in the end of the wet season and it was unbelievable. So you can imagine, just like, this is how we tried selling the workshop about 5 years ago and it didn't take off for whatever reason. My audience just wasn't ready for it. It was so, I think, unique that they were like, I don't know about that. And now we actually oversubscribed it. We got 4 people coming. I think we had room for 3. So how many did we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah. Can you imagine just saying, well, I want to take you on a workshop, and for the whole week, your only mode of transport, the only way you're going to get around is via a helicopter.
That's awesome.
You'd just be like, oh my God. And what we actually did is we tacked on with this company based up there to then say they were running this workshop, or this safari, they call it, for non-photographers. And when I first saw them advertise it, I rang them and I said, I love this concept, but could we do it as a photo safari? And they went, yeah, that sounds amazing. Let's do it. And what we actually said was, well, one of the premises is that we get to photograph from the helicopter as we're moving. So it's not just we get to go to a location, take the doors off, fly around for a bit, and then put the doors back on. The moment we hopped in the helicopter, you slide the window open and you're photographing aerials from the moment you take off. And so we had 19 hours of aerial photography over 5 days through some of the most remote parts of Australia that not many people have seen, and that was amazing. That was an incredible experience.
Taking an image from a helicopter, what shutter speed would you use? Because
you're at least
shake reduction would be going mental, wouldn't it?
Yeah, no, you're at least 1,000th of a second. Yeah. If you've got one of those, I'm not sure if this. I'm sure they do the Sonys and the new Nikon Z7s. They have image stabilization in the camera. Image stabilization on lenses has been around for 20 years at least. So, about 1,000th of a second, maybe a bit more if you want. Depth of field isn't really an issue because you're so far away from your subject. So you can literally shoot 2.8 f4. It all looks the same. It's all sharp because you're focusing on infinity. Yep. We caught the end of the wet season, which was amazing. We were actually dodging storms in the helicopters. We went to this place called Eagle Falls. If you actually want to see, again, remind me to send you the link. I've got a 3-minute video just as a highlight reel from the workshop.
Okay.
We land on top of these waterfalls for lunch, right? In the middle of nowhere. And mind you, it's like 35 degrees. So all you want to do when you hop out of this chopper, it's got air conditioning, by the way, but all you want to do when you hop out of this chopper is take a few photos and go for a swim in one of these waterfalls.
Wow.
And we take off from this waterfall after lunch because it's like, oh, these clouds, these are looking a bit ominous. Yeah, okay, it's getting a bit dark and time's moving on. Okay, let's go. We take off and we're sitting on the ground. There's 2 choppers. One takes off. It goes, then airspace is clear. You take off, right? And we just hear through the mics. If you could have recorded all of the chatter that went on throughout this 5 days, it was brilliant. Chatter between us, chatter between the pilots themselves. They were brilliant. Aaron and Nathan, their names were brilliant, really good pilots. Fuck me. When you're doing that sort of stuff, you want to make sure you got guys who know what they're talking about. Because
for sure, definitely.
In general, I shit my pants being in a helicopter regardless. A, I'm scared of heights, and B, if you think about how they operate and the physics and the mechanics behind it, it's scary. It's scary. So Aaron takes off in the first helicopter, and all you hear through the mic is like, "Holy shit! I just flew into a massive rainstorm." And we're like, are you okay? And he goes, yeah, I just got to get around it. As we were having lunch, we were in this sort of like alcove and we couldn't really see what was going on around us. We had these quite tall cliffs. And we saw the sky getting a bit dark, but we didn't realize that it was this massive rainstorm coming towards us. So he's taken off and flown that way, to the south, and we've taken off to the north. And as we've sort of double backed and come around, there's just this wall of water, this massive dark cloud, massive rainstorm, and he's flown all the way through it. And helicopters and thunderstorms don't generally mix. And so it was all very safe, mind you, but it was very unexpected. So those sorts of experiences and photographic opportunities were unbelievable. The whole day, that first day that we flew, 6 or 7 hours, we just flew through the most amazing sort of landscapes, but also rainstorms here, there and everywhere from the end of the wet season. We were very fortunate, very lucky. And in fact, we had to land the helicopters early that night at our remote camp. And then we just spent the next couple of hours just photographing lightning storms just all around us, literally, shutter open for as long as you want. And just this light display just went on for hours. It was incredible. Less Aussie. The tall poppy syndrome kicking in once again.
Don't
be like Tom.
More Italian.
Don't be like Tom. The other, of course, amazing experience we've had with workshops is to save you out of this hole that you've dug for yourself. Is another place we've been that not any other Australian photographer goes to. I like to go. I don't want to go to the same places all the time because I get bored of photographing them, and also my clients don't want to either. We've got that cool group of clients that love coming with us. They go, yeah, Tom, we've already been down the Great Ocean Road. We've already been to Uluru. Can we go somewhere else? And so we're always looking to push the boundaries and go to new places. And Lake Baikal in Russia was a place we went to a few years ago. Are you guys familiar with that part of the world?
No.
Never heard of it?
No.
It's the largest and deepest freshwater lake in the world. It's in the middle of Siberia in Russia. Look it up.
Wow.
And it's 1.6 kilometers deep, 1 mile deep at its deepest point. It averages about 800 meters deep. What's unique about it is that it's purely freshwater, and in the wintertime it gets down to about minus 30 degrees, and at least the top meter of water freezes as ice, and you can drive on the lake, and you can go and take the most spectacular photographs. So you literally drive from Irkutsk, which is the nearest town. You drive about 4 or 5 hours to the lake, and literally when you get to the lake, you drive from a dirt road just onto this ice road.
Wow.
You don't stop. You just drive onto it and off you go. And for the next week, we just drive on these ice roads across the lake looking for the most amazing ice formations, doing light painting in ice caves at nighttime, all sorts of things. Again, freezing cold, minus 20. If you don't like the cold, don't go. But you guys live in the UK and Scotland and stuff, so you're used to it. And so should I tell you that today, you haven't asked, by the way, but today – it's springtime in Melbourne, which I don't know whether you know about springtime in Melbourne. It's generally when the Melbourne Cup is held, the big horse race. And it can either be, for Melbourne Cup Day, which is next Tuesday, it can either be big race, by the way. We're big gamblers here in Australia. We love betting on sport. In fact, the number of, I know in, I digress. I think advertising gambling in most states of the US is actually illegal. Whereas here in Australia, it's a free-for-all. So every second ad on TV is all about sports betting, sports betting on footy, sports betting on soccer, sports betting on bloody cockroaches going up the wall, all sorts of stuff, right? So Melbourne Cup Day, it's either unbelievably gorgeous, 28 degrees Celsius, all the girls and guys there, the girls in their frocks and the guys in their nice suits and, drinking far too much and being very disheveled by the end of the day because they've spent, 7 or 8 hours drinking in the sun. Or it is just goddamn awful weather. It's still winter and that's spring into Melbourne. It's either one way or the other. It's it's teasing us and saying, look at me, summer's coming, it's going to be amazing weather. Or it's just, hold on, where did summer go because it's back to winter again. It's going to be about 27 degrees today, which is, I think, our warmest spring day so far. So coming out of lockdown into a 27-degree day, we're all very happy indeed.
That's all good, eh?
It was about 10 today for us.
Yeah, if you're lucky.
Yeah, a bit colder for Paul. Paul's a little bit higher than me.
A bit colder. A bit colder today up here.
So there are our workshop experiences. I think you asked a question about half an hour ago, Matt.
But I did. Yeah, that was beautiful.
Time. Looking forward to travelling again, that's for sure. We've really missed it. That's just, for those who don't know, Melbourne or Australia shut its borders internationally back in March last year. So it's only just now opening up again. So literally those if you wanted to travel overseas, you had to do via special permit for work purposes only. So it wasn't a matter of, I'm sick of this lockdown, let's just jump on a plane and go across to New Zealand or over the UK or anything. It wasn't allowed. So we're looking forward to getting out and traveling again, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's been tough, hasn't it, mate?
It has.
Very tough. Yeah. 2.5 years since I haven't been home. So.
Yeah, right. Okay. You wouldn't know the place, Matt. If you were growing up in Sorrento and the Mornington Peninsula now, I don't know that it's changed all that much other than the prices of the houses.
Yeah, I know that.
The average house
very
price
well.
the average house price here in Melbourne last year grew by $7,000 a month on average.
Wow.
Holy crap.
It's just from doing nothing, literally the average price of a house here in Melbourne now is over $1 million Australian.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Yeah, it's nuts. It's nuts. I don't know whether it's like that in other parts of the world, but
no,
ownership.
It's Australia at the moment. It's just
it's this fear of missing out too. It's this FOMO thing, and it's like people are paying ridiculous prices for houses, and I'm sure they're saying, well, if I don't buy it now, it's going to be even more expensive later. But we're in this massive bubble where people are, if you step back from it from a second, it's a bit like cryptocurrency, right? If you step back for a second, you kind of go, is there any substance behind this? Like, I'm buying a 3-bedroom knockdown home for $1.2 million. Like, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. But anyway.
Might have to put your workshop prices up, mate.
Always. I think one of the things I've learned, it's an interesting sort of point maybe to end on. I'm not sure whether I should wrap it up soon. I've got to open the gallery, but it's an interesting point in a sense that one of the things about pricing your art and pricing your workshops is that you never want to have any regrets afterwards. I think I've learned that through the years, where you don't want to have that, I really should have charged more for that. I think more often than not, you can beat yourself up for undercharging, but you'll rarely beat yourself up for overcharging. Yeah. You'll rarely do that. You know, that's my advice to anybody listening or to you guys. I hope I'm not telling you how to suck eggs, but there's been many times where I've gone, you know, you get the client in the gallery and you do them a special deal because they've haggled with you. And then you turn up at the house and they've got this, you know, beautiful, beautiful home, the one that you could only dream of with the latest cars and all the rest of it. And good on them. They've worked hard for it. I'm not begrudging them of that. But by the same token, you know, I want to sell any workshop or any print these days knowing that I'm getting duly rewarded for it, because you've got to remind yourself of all the time and effort that you've put into your craft. You know, like all the money, not just the money, you know, like that's the thing when pricing your art. My best advice would be to charge 3 times what it costs you to print that work. So if you're selling an unframed print and it costs you 50 quid, you should at least charge 150 quid for that print. And now some people would probably go, oh, there's no way I could charge that. Well, yeah, that's because you've never charged it before. No one will pay that much. Well, how do you know that? Have you been selling your art at 150 quid and no one's bought it? Okay, maybe it is priced too high, or maybe you're marketing to the wrong buyer. But I've been amazed at some of the things, like the prices we charge for our workshops these days. Let's just say I feel I charge a fair price, but I certainly don't want to undercharge because I've been doing it for too long. And I feel I add far too much value for that. But that heli safari that we did in the Kimberley this year, we probably undercharged a little, and that was 38,000 Australian dollars. So we never thought, my point being is we never thought we could sell a workshop at that price. Like that's obviously the highest price we've sold a workshop at. And we thought no one will ever pay that. And yet we had 5 people wanting to pay that, and we're fully booked for next year as well. You know, and yet the price next year is $46,000. So, you know, just put it out there. If you're comfortable with the price you're charging, it's not the right price. I guarantee you, if you as an artist are comfortable with the price you're charging for a workshop, for 101, for a course you're selling, for art you're selling, you're comfortable with that price, you are undercharging, because you should have a cringe factor when you sell your work. And the cringe factor, you know what I'm saying. Look, you're all laughing. You know exactly what I'm talking about. It's the whole, can I really charge that much? Yeah. If you're not getting a cringe, you're not charging enough, because remember, we're basing the price we're charging based on what we feel is expensive or what we can afford versus what the customer is willing to pay. It's totally different. It's a totally different mindset, right? You know, at the end of the day, that customer, you know, like for our art, you know, brilliant homes down here on the Mornington Peninsula, they work a corporate job or they run their own business. It pays them very well as opposed to being an artist. And so therefore, you know, they've got the money in their pocket to be able to spend on art. So therefore a $3,000 artwork, which is the average price in our gallery, is not, in my mind, very expensive.
No, not at all.
And we just keep putting that price out and saying, and the more used you get to saying it, the easier it is to roll off the tongue. And you'll be surprised and be thankful that you're actually charging that, because rather than trying to live day to day, you might actually have some money in the bank.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
I felt like that was a big fucking preach there. Sorry about that.
Not at all. Just watch Tom and I's website from now on. Everything goes up 3 times.
Well, I hope so. But yeah, exactly. Yeah. Bring in the Leonardo DiCaprio gift.
And if anybody gives me any shit, I'm going to say Tom Putt said.
But you know what, Paul, the only people that are going to give you shit about what you charge on your website are the other photographers who wish they could charge that price.
Yeah. This is the problem. I think this is the thing that we sometimes forget.
Far too much time looking at each other's websites. I bet.
Yeah.
You know, and how much does he charge? I'll undercut him a bit, or I'll be around the same price, which is bullshit because you don't know what his expenses are or his overheads are, his or her overheads.
That's right.
You know, whether they're going to the same printer or not. Remember, it's not what it costs. It's not necessarily what it costs you to buy. It's more what you are worth at the end of the day. Like, I'm looking at a beautiful 150 centimeter wide canvas print. It's 150 by 120. I wish I could turn around and show it to you. I've got my desktop here. I fear that if I try and turn the computer around, the copy machine and hard drives will go everywhere.
It's all right, mate. Just take the painting off the wall and drag it over and show us.
I will do that. But it's 150 centimeters wide by 150 centimeters deep. And this is sort of like our standard size, 1.5 meters wide, which is 60 inches for those who go by inches.
Yeah.
And it's canvas, beautiful 100% cotton canvas. It's the best quality canvas we can buy. It's only made in 3 places in the world. This is imported from the US. And it's got a beautiful shadow box frame around it. You know those shadow box frames that you put around canvases these days? Yeah. It cost me less than 700 Australian dollars, and we charge 3,500. You know, because we can. We're in a gallery. It's context, as I was saying before. Selling that wouldn't sell at a market versus what I can sell here in a gallery with nice lighting and in a retail shop, et cetera, et cetera. But at the end of the day, if I don't charge that much for that, I don't have a space. I don't have a gallery because I won't be able to pay all the other overheads. You know, what photographers tend to not consider is the cost of acquiring that photograph. So let's talk about how many years you've been photographing for, what courses you've bought in order to learn your craft, how many times you've driven to that location, the money you've spent on your camera gear, the money you've spent on insurance, the divorce you've had because your wife doesn't, you know, want to stay with you anymore because you're a photographer. No, I'm joking.
She hates photography. Yeah.
She hates photography and she's over you being away all the time and talking photography 24/7. You know, internet, computers, software, you know, if you sat down and wrote down everything that you spend your money on in order to take photographs and enjoy what you're doing and added it up, you know, you'd be surprised at how much it comes to. So if you're not charging at least 3 times what it cost you, you're not making any money.
Yeah, definitely.
In my mind.
Agree 100%.
That's true.
Yeah. Anyway.
Well,
Tom,
okay,
how was
buddy.
that? Was that good? Are you happy?
That was beautiful.
Have I added some value? Have I added some entertainment? Is that the
Definitely.
best podcast you've ever done?
Bloody oath, mate. Yep.
Yeah, definitely.
Beautiful.
100%, mate.
I don't even care if anyone listens to this because I've learned so much already.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
I could listen to you all day, mate.
Oh, you mean? Yeah, good. Well, you know, I'm up for a chat anytime. If you want to get me on again, feel free. Or you say, hey, you know, you talked a little bit about that, but I'd like to explore that further. I feel that over the years of running, you know, workshops, running a portrait studio as a professional sports photographer for 3 years, selling art, all the rest of it, I've got a fair sort of broad knowledge on most things about photography, and I really am passionate about it. My wife, my partner, Mary, she's run portrait studios and is a salesperson. She's not a photographer, but she's a sales and business person, and she's had over 20 years of selling art experience as well. So between us, we've got about 40 years of selling art, which is quite unique, I think.
And the fact that you can, after that time, still have because it's a beautiful thing to have. But for you to be talking to us and you can hear that passion about photography, I think that's amazing. After that amount of time, especially as a full-time job, there's always burnouts with all types of jobs, isn't there, at the end of the day? But for you to come away and talk with us today and you can hear that passion, and it's a beautiful thing to hear, mate.
I hope so. Thank you. Thanks, guys. Well, I hope I've inspired a few of your listeners and I hope they've learned something. Yeah, that's for sure.
100%.
Definitely. Yeah.
Thanks for having me. You can find me on the socials like Instagram and Facebook at Tom Putt Gallery. So Tom Putt Gallery.
Beautiful.
And then on my website, which is tomputt.com, TOMPUTT.com.
Yeah, please, again, listeners, go and have a look at his website. It's beautiful, beautiful work.
We'll pop all those in the show notes as well. We'll put all those links in the show notes.
All the appropriate and inappropriate stuff that we talked about.
Yeah. Definitely. Bit of editing, I think. I was about to go, blah. Anyway. Okay.
Thanks very much for coming on.
Cheers, mate.
Thanks,
it's been
mate.
absolutely,
Thanks, guys. Lovely to meet you all. And I really appreciate you having me on and listening to me babble on for a couple of hours. But
no, it was beautiful.
Take care. Look forward to seeing more of your work, and I'll be following you through the socials and the YouTubes and all the rest of it.
Beautiful,
Cheers, mate. Thanks very much, buddy.
Take it easy. See you later.
Thanks,
buddy.
guys.
Bye. Bye.